1950s enamel repaint. Want to scuff? Want to scuff and all over. Paint is very solid. What grit, sealer, etc. All right. So if you want to repaint that, okay. So I don't know if you're working on a sentimental build. If you want to start from scratch, and then do your paint job, or if you don't mind to go over the paint. You know, it's up to you how much time and effort you want to put into it, but you could repaint over your 1950s paint job just by sanding it down, provided it has a pretty good foundation. Okay, if it's flaking and it's chipping all over the place and not looking good, I would recommend just taking it all down to bare metal. But if so, you're saying no need go down, so you don't need to go down to bare metal. All right, I would scuff it. If you want to put a filler primer on top of that, you can. If you want to spray single stage right over it, you can without even priming it. Okay, depending on the condition of your single stage. Now, I don't know what it looks like. Obviously, it's hard for me to actually tell you this is what you should do. But if you want to prime over it, you can get it feathered out all down with like 150 grit. Anywhere from 150 to 180 grit. You could just sand it all down, you know, get it feathered out, smooth, ready to go. You could put 2 coats of a filler primer on it, 2K filler primer, and then you can block that out, 400 grit, and you're good to go. Okay. When you're on that stage, blocking out with primer, if you see, before you do any blocking, if you see any imperfections, little paint chips, rock chips, or whatever that you want to take care of, that's the time that you want to get your glaze putty. You can get a 1K glaze putty or a 2K glaze putty. Actually, we have videos of that coming out very, very soon that we did on the BMW project. And then you basically block those out. You fill them, you block those out, put another light coat of primer on it, block it, and you're ready for paint. You could dry sand or you can wet sand, okay? I'm old school. I like to finish wet sanding because it's less dusty, cleaner. You get a cleaner cut, less caking on your sandpapers. And as you're sanding, you can see the paint, you know, you can see the water, the wetness glisten off of the body panels. And basically, that's what it's going to look like when you put your clear coat on or your single stage. Okay, so you're fine with that. Hey, Tony, Hank from Florida, see and hear you loud and clear. Lifetime VIP member. I want to paint a rear spoiler. I just purchased Toyota Sequioa. What sandpaper can I prep with? So if you purchased a spoiler, it might already be primed. I don't know. It's probably most likely primed. All you have to do is wet sand 400 grit, and if it's doesn't have any imperfections in it as far as a little scratch or, you know, chips or whatever, if it's fine, then you could just wet sand it 400 grit and you should be ready for base coat, clear coat. If you feel like you want to put a coat of primer on it, still wet sand it with 400 grit, prime it, sand it down with 400 grit again, and you're good to go. Let me know if that helps. Alien Works says wet sanding versus dry sanding. I heard wet sanding makes the paper finer, so wet sanding 600 will result in a 400 finish. Correct? No, I think that's total BS. Wet sanding doesn't make it finer. It makes your paper last a little bit longer, and it reduces caking. So, I like to wet sand with 400 grit because over time, as you're sanding, it's going to turn into a 500 and 600 grit. You get what I'm saying? And that's fine. As long as you're in the 400 to 600 grit range when prepping before paint, you know, your final sand marks, your final sand scratches, you're good to go. Okay. But my go-to paper is always a 400 grit before paint. That's like the perfect tooth, perfect scratch mark in your primer, okay, or your paint, or your clear coat, or your single stage to accept a new coat of primer, okay, new coats of primer or paint. And also, have you decided on what you want to do with your keeper car yet, paint color wise? Michael G, what keeper car are you talking about? And as far as the carburetor being rebuilt, I did rebuild it, but the kit that I got didn't have exactly, it wasn't the exact carburetor kit from my Daihatsu. So I was able to use like 50% of the parts. 50% of it I couldn't use, and it's still running like crap. You know, I can't, I think I got to tune the carburetor a little bit now. I just haven't had the time to get into it, but I would like to get a new carburetor from Japan. It's just hard to find one. If anybody knows where I can get a Daihatsu carburetor for a high jet, let me know. Few live feeds back that you could mix clear coat and base coat together and make a somewhat single stage paint. Didn't totally understand the mixture you recommend. Okay, so if you want to play with that, now this is something that you play with, okay? And I actually was playing around with some candy mixtures last week when I painted the one wheel, and pretty awesome stuff. Basically got rid of the use of an inner coat candy for candy concentrates. You basically just mix it in clear coat and you're good to go. But when you want to do base coat and clear coat, so yeah, mix up your clear coat. Okay, so say you have a quart of clear coat mixed up. I would add anywhere from, it depends, because if you want to use a clear coat as a carrier, right, to carry pearls, flakes, or color as a tint, as in base coat, okay, you could do that. But I don't recommend turning a clear coat mixture with base coat as a single stage. No. If you want to use a single stage, mix up your single stage, mix up some clear coat, and you can add up to 50% clear coat mixture into your single stage to give it more gloss. You could do that. But if you're spraying single stage correctly, you're going to get a good gloss anyway. So I really don't see the purpose of mixing clear coat in single stage. My dad did it a few times. It's good if you want to stretch out. So like if you're doing a single stage paint job and you're running out of single stage on your second or third coat, you're like, oh shit, then that's a good time to, if you have some clear coat on your shelf, to mix up a quart of clear coat or 2 quarts, and then mix your single stage that's already mixed up and put it into there to give you more volume to go over your paint job. You could do that because you already have the color. You just need more flow, right? More clear coat, more flow out. That you can do. But if you want to do like tints, then I would mix clear coat, okay, fully your 4-to-1 or your 2-to-1 mixture of your clear coat, whatever it is. And then you can add 25% non-mixed base coat, 25 to 50% non-mixed base coat into that, to give it a tint, to tint your tail lights or whatever you're doing, right? So normally the way I do it is, if I'm doing that, I would mix a little bit of black base coat inside of my clear coat to give me a smoky color, to do my tail lights or whatever, things like that, to smoke out tail lights. Okay, and keep in mind that the more coats you go over it, the darker it's going to get. You're just going to overlap. It's going to get dark really quickly, so be careful. Forrest from California, love the VIP course. I'm getting ready to spray single stage. I primed with 2K primer over 400 grit wet sand. Is there any benefit to using a sealer or just wasting my money? If you're using a good overall brand 2K filler primer, that's a perfect foundation to spray single stage or base coat, clear coat on top of. You don't need to put a sealer on. Okay, so that you're good right there. Just make sure you block it out, you finish it out with 400 grit, preferably wet sand. Okay, you get a cleaner cut, you get a cleaner everything, less dust in your garage or whatever. Wash it down, let it dry, wax and grease, remove it, tack it, and you're good to go. Been a VIP for about a month now. I love the videos. I have a new front bumper that needs to be painted. after scuffing it, do I need adhesion promoter, then primer, or straight to base coat? Okay, so it depends. Is there primer on it, or is it a raw plastic bumper? Okay, if it's a raw plastic bumper, you want to sand it. Okay, you can sand it with anywhere from okay, there's a few different stages. Okay, if the plastic is a hard plastic and you just want to get the job done quickly, you can sand it with 400 grit, wet sand it, adhesion promoter, and spray your base coat clear coat on top of it. If it's a textured material plastic and you want to get rid of the texture, you sand it first with like a 400 grit. You could even go a little less, maybe like a 320 if you wanted to. 2K filler prime it, 2 coats, 2 heavy coats. Block sand it with 400 to get rid of the texture, and then base coat clear coat. Okay, so it depends. If you want to get rid of that little texture that raw plastic has, then prime it. If you don't care about the texture, then you could just adhesion promoter and put your base coat clear coat right on top of that. Soak sandpaper before wet sanding? No, it does not do anything at all. But you can also leave your sandpaper in your buckets for weeks and nothing will happen to it at all. Also, so like I have primer, sandpaper left in buckets for like a week or two, whatever. I forgot about it, and they're still good. They just roll up. But you spray primer? No. Sealer is the last step before base coat if you're going to be using a sealer. But again, like I said, if you're using a decent 2K filler primer, that's considered like a sealer. Okay, it's a great foundation to be painting anything over. So you're good. Okay, there's also something called a single stage sealer if you want to use a sealer. Okay, and this stuff we use and we have it in our VIP videos. It's a 1K, so you don't even have to reduce it. You just take it out of the can, mix it, put it in your gun, and spray it. It's a 1K sealer. It's good to just seal some things on your car, like if you have some metal showing, right before you paint. Say this car was all primed up and ready to go. I wet sanded it, and I kind of cut through, and I got some metal on the corner showing, right? And I feel like I don't want to do a 2K. I don't want to mix up 2K again. I don't want to spray 2K, wait for it to dry, then block it out with 400 again. What you would do in those situations is just have it ready for paint in the booth, ready to go, or in your garage, ready to go. Put some of that in your gun, hit those metal spots around the car, let it sit, tack it, and then put your base coat clear coat on top of that. That's what that 1K Select sealer is for. Good stuff. I highly recommend it. It's for last minute shit right before you paint. Is this helping, guys? Let me know if this is helping. What brand and model for your 60-gallon compressor does it run off? 110 or 220? Is it both to the ground? Freestanding. It's freestanding. Okay, it's on a crate. It's on a little crate that it came with. It's a Cobalt 2-stage, 240 volt, and it's quiet. It's quiet. I spent double the price for a Bel Air, brand name Bel Air compressor in Texas. That thing sounded like a damn lawnmower in my garage. This thing, I would say it's 50% quieter. And I think I paid $600, $650, give or take. I'm in Hawaii. Things are a little bit more expensive. I bet you in the mainland, these things are a lot cheaper at Lowe's. Good compressor, puts out, it's more than what I need for a single shop here painting a car. That's all you guys need. If you guys are painting a full car, you're going to want to at least get a 60-gallon volume air compressor, 3 to 5 horsepower. The horsepower on my Bel Air in Dallas was 5 horsepower. But this one, I think this one's much better. So do you wet sand sealer before base coat, or is it needed to apply base after the sealer splash time? So yeah, you're not supposed to, technically, you're not supposed to wet sand sealer. Okay, sealer is sprayed on at the last step, and then you let it flash for 30 minutes, and then you paint right over it, base coat or single stage. And manufacture stickers, VIN, when spraying those areas, tape and razor. Yes, tape and razor. It's the only way. Or remove the decals, do your paint job, buy new decals and place them where they were. It's another way to do it. If you don't wanna outline and not paint where your decals are. The other thing you could do is if you don't care, you could just clear over your decals. Okay, so you could mask them up, do your base coat, take the paper off, the masking tape, I mean, and on your clear coat stage, you can just clear coat your decal right into it. You don't have to sand it or anything. Just make sure it's clean. And that'll like literally put your decal in your paint job. And it actually feels better too, because it's just like in your paint job. But the only flip side con to that is when you want to redo it or whatever, you're just gonna have to sand through. You're gonna have to get like 80 or 100 grit to just sand the decal and clear coat off. And that's exactly what I'm doing with the Honda Elite moped project in the garage. We did flames on it. I outlined it with a Pro Stripe vinyl pinstripe, and then I clear coated over it. So you just got to sand to remove tape before it screws up what you laid on. And I talk about this in VIP. Todd, aren't you VIP? Remember I was talking to a Todd last week, and he was a VIP. I talk about this. So after your paint job, you're going to want to let that thing flash for about 2 hours, 3 hours max. And then you're going to want to take the masking paper off your trim, off the car while it's still soft. I wouldn't say wet. Okay. I wouldn't say tacky, but dry to the touch to where if you skim your paint job, okay, if you just go like this or go like this, it's not going to stick on your hands. Okay, that's pretty much dry to the touch where you're not pushing it. You don't want to put your finger mark in it, right? That's when you want to take your masking tape off of your job if you have anything that needs to be removed, right, as far as masking goes. And take your time when doing it, okay? Because if you're close, if you got trim molding close to the paint job, you know, you could, and there's a certain way to peel the masking tape off too as well. And again, all those videos are in VIP. That will show final wet sanding with the block is preferred, correct? Again, guys, I like to finish block sanding everything that I do, unless it's a faster, quicker paint job like the van project we're going to be doing. I don't think I'm going to be doing anything by hand on the final steps with that because we're also going to be spraying single stage. Single stage is more forgiving. You don't have to have a 400 grit final prepped up panel, you know, to spray over. You could even finish with like a 360 because single stage is a thicker paint. It'll fill and it'll cover. And as long as you're spraying that sucker on wet with a good flow out, it's going to look good. Like when I spray single stage, people think it's a base coat, clear coat paint job because I just lay it on really well. And again, lighting is key. And if you guys are concerned about lighting, don't forget to get you a Gun Bud Ultra lighting system. This thing literally will light up all of the panel right in front of your gun. You get no shadows, no nothing. And it's essential. I use the Gun Bud on every single paint job I do, no matter what. You get them on Amazon, eBay. Check them out. 4.5-star rating on Amazon. And you cannot fake Amazon ratings. It's all from users who purchased the product. So good product, in my opinion. But if you want to check out awesome spray guns, the same guns that I use, check out Zula.com. I'm going to post a link right here. Because all Atom spray guns that you invest in, okay, comes with a Gun Bud Ultra lighting system for free, which is like a $60 value. You get this light for free with any Atom spray gun. So yeah, guys, how do you prevent pigtails when sanding with the DA? Well, I think if you have soft prime, if you're working with a primer that didn't cure properly, soft primer, it's going to cake up your pad, which is going to give you the pigtails. So make sure the primer that you're sanding with a DA is 100% cured, okay? And make sure you're using a decent grade sandpaper. I use Kovacs. Kovacs is a good sandpaper. And just do that. Go with it. You know, if you notice caking, then you could basically just hit the DA while you're sanding. And if it's that bad, then I would just use another new clean sheet of sandpaper. Okay. But most times for caking, for badly caking sandpaper pads and pigtails is because of your primer isn't fully cured, and it's just kind of like rubbing, you know, it's just caking up because it's dry, but it's not 100% dry, and it's starting to powder is caking up, and because of the heat, right, the friction in there, it's just giving you that pigtail. This one up. Hey Tony, if you have orange peel on single stage after cleaning it up, should you sand with 400 and re-clear? If you're gonna re-clear, you want to clear over 800 grit. Okay. Why don't you just try and buff it out instead of re-clearing? You might be able to get away with just, you know, sanding it down with 800, getting the orange peel out, then going to 1500 grit and then buffing it, or even 1500 then 2000 grit and then buffing it. That might do it instead of re-clearing. Save you a lot of hassle. Hi from the UK. My first project had the orange peel effect. How did your first car project go? My first project went pretty well. Actually, I think I was like 13. I sprayed my 89 Yamaha YSR in a paint booth, and my friend Tony taught me how to lay it down. And the key to not getting orange peel, to avoiding orange peel, is to basically lay down your paint. Don't be afraid of laying it on. And seriously, lighting and the ability to see what you're doing as you're spraying is probably 90% of it. Because as you're spraying, if it looks dry, you know, if it dries like that, it's gonna dry like crap also, right? When you're spraying, you want to make sure it's laying down wet. You got to wet it. Okay. Now, obviously, your first coat is not going to look as wet and float out as your second coat or third coat. Okay. But normally, all paint jobs, clear coats, and single stage, you're pretty much done with your second coat. Okay. Two medium heavy coats, you're good to go. Okay. Very rarely do I do 3 coats. Maybe I'll do like a third flow coat on a hood, or, you know, a body part or something, an extra, just because I have a little bit of paint left in my cup and I just want to lay it on and just finish the job. Then I'll do that. Like when you're done with your second coat on the complete paint job, and if I have some left, I'll just like do the hood again, you know, or do the bumper again, or just look around to see if there's any dry spots to hit that again, you know. And if you're starting a panel, you better complete the panel, because, you know, sometimes if you end in the middle of a panel, you're going to get that difference of, you know, not blending in. You have that dry spot. VIP, currently we're doing a special promotion for $47 annually. That's like $3 and change per month, which just covers my support fees. Okay. My hosting, my membership platform, you know, it doesn't, guys, I'm not even making money off of this. Seriously. It's just helping you guys get to the next level. Tip to use for primer. All right. So if you want to spray a 2K filler primer direct without reducing it, okay, I would recommend a 1.8 to a 2.0 tip kit. Okay. Now, if you're using the Atom, they sell the tip kits at Zula.com for like $60 or so, 60, $70. You can get the whole new nozzle. It comes with the whole tip. It comes with all of this, your air cap, tip, needle, nozzle. And you could just replace it to a 2.0 and easily spray out your 2K filler primers, or even polyester filler primer if you're using that. If you want to just use your 1.3 tip or a 1.4, you could. You're just going to have to reduce your primer about 10 to 15%, give or take, to spray out of this thing. Okay, but just make sure when you're done priming to clean your gun very well. And then you're going to be able to use it for your base coat, clear coat, or single stage, whatever you're doing. Tony, do you have to put hardener on base coat? Most base coats, no. Depending on your base coat. Some base coats require hardener, like some of the kits that you get off eBay. I think even some Eastwood kits require hardener, different mixtures. But if you're using a name brand, automotive paint brand like PPG, DuPont, Sherman-Williams, no, it's just your base coat 1-to-1 with reducer. And I like to use medium to slow reducer. Mostly medium I like to use for base coats. Clear coats, I like to use slow reducers to give it some time to flow out, unless you're doing a spot repair, a single panel, or something that you just kind of want to get done in the garage quick. Then you could use a medium reducer for your clear coat. You guys got it. You got it, bros. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week, Monday, same time. Thank you for tuning in. Aloha.